So for the second video on watering, I just want to talk a little bit about watering in the polytunnel. So the system that I use in the polytunnel is drip tape, and I find it works really well. It gives a deep watering, and it allows me to vary the amounts of water I put depending on the different types of plants. So for example, coriander would have a shallow rooting system, and tomatoes on the other hand would have a deep root system. So what I can do here is each line is controlled, so I can turn off the irrigation. Say I might water these guys for 15 minutes and that's enough, and then I would leave the water on the tomatoes for maybe a half an hour or so. So now that's just one system. Now I know most of you in the home garden wouldn't have a drip system. So there are other ways that you can, you might be using a hose with a watering lance, or you might be using a watering can. But either way, you really need to think about watering correctly and conserving water where possible, because we're looking at now maybe the possibility of a hose water ban. So you'll have to figure out ways that your plants are getting enough water but you're not wasting the water. So so what we look at then is, if you were watering something like tomatoes and say you had you're watering through a hose, what I would normally do is, what you're looking at doing is then you're giving them a deep water. So you always water the soil. So what I would do is I would probably count to 5, and then I would move on to the next plant and I would do the same thing, count to 5, right? And then I would go the whole way along the row in that manner, and then I would come back and give it a second water. So that way you're giving it a nice deep water. And if you water in here, like what you want to make sure you're doing too is that you're watering in on the soil, that you're not just watering willy-nilly and the water is running off the bed. So you want to conserve as much water. And for something like tomatoes, if you were doing it with a hose, depending on the weather, like it will all depend on the weather. We've had, for the past week, it's been really warm in here. We had days where it was over 30 degrees. So I was probably giving them some water every day. But the temperature now dropped yesterday, and I won't water those for a couple of days, because what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'll go down to the base of the plant and I'll look, and if it's moist under here, like the top will always dry out first. So you want to check underneath, and if there's water like an inch down, it's going to be wet underneath, so the roots are getting water. So that's what you're looking at. In addition to that, I have the spent mushroom compost as a mulch layer, so that also will help to conserve some of the water in there. So if in your home garden then you're looking at using maybe mulches on top to kind of conserve water, you could use like wood chips or composted, just garden compost, even a layer of that, or you could use a thin layer of grass clippings maybe just around your plants to keep in as much water as you can.